Hello everyone, my name is Steve Samuel from Design Visionaries, and today I'd like to show you some really cool shapes that mimic some shapes that I saw on a recent trip that I took. The trip was to a few different countries that are on the Danube River. Here's the Danube River. I was on a little boat, and we went down the Danube River and we saw Regensburg, and we saw Passau, and we saw Vienna, and we ended up in Budapest. And in Budapest, there were so many wonderful things to see and so many artistic things. One of the little sculptures that I saw was this little girl, and this sculpture was crafted after an actual little girl who used to pretends that she was a princess. So she's in her pajamas here, and she's got this paper hat on. And the artist, it's very whimsical, and the artist just made this of his daughter. And people, it's brass, so people come and rub the knees, so for good luck. So that was right on the river walk, on the promenade in Budapest. That was fun. There was another sculpture that was very poignant. Well, it's not like a sculpture, but it's more like a display. And evidently these are the bronzed shoes, or replicas of the shoes that were left at the end of World War II. I think 2 days before the whole thing ended, there was a group that was collaborating with the Nazis, and they lined up, I think, 20,000 Jewish folks, and they made them take their shoes off, and they shot them into the river. So that's terrible, terrible, terrible. But it does, it is a very important thing in history. But it's a very interesting sculpture, very moving sculpture. There's a lot of people with tears in their eyes, my wife included. So that was bad. But on a good note, there was this other sculpture, and I was intrigued by the shape of it. I was just very attracted to it right away. And then I found out that this sculpture is, they call it the kilometer sculpture, and it's the 0 point for all the things that you can measure from Budapest. So when they have buildings, when they have structures, this is regarded as the 000, and then you can measure the locations of things using this as the 0. So that's why it's km for kilometer, and it's the beginning of everything. So you can see that the shape is kind of reminiscent of the beginning of all life, if you will. So I thought I would create this geometry in NX, and so I started by doing some things. So I can show you that I started with a simple extrusion of the base, and I cut that extrusion into the different sections that are in the final sculpture, chamfered it, patterned it, did some other cutting, trimming, and then I made the pedestal. After the pedestal, I made a pattern to show the patterning of all of the base, and then I extruded the thing above the pedestal. Maybe we could call that the plinth, and made a datum plane. I made a sketch on that datum plane that emulated the overall shape of the sculpture, but I knew I was going to make a surface, and I knew if I tried to make this elliptical surface, it might be a little difficult. So a really easy way to do it is to take a sphere that was tangent to the ellipse that I made and scale it. So that's what I did. I scaled it. As you can see, that sketch had the shape of the inside of the sculpture, and on that shape I put a little sketch here, so I can just hide the overall right there. So what I did is I used a sweep, or a swept, and I made a solid that emulated the cutout of the overall shape. And then I wanted to distribute a whole bunch of kind of texture onto it. So I went ahead and made an algorithmic model. The algorithmic model had, let's go to the parameters. I can edit the definition. Let's go to the definition. So the algorithmic model, I wanted to distribute a bunch of spheres on here. And so there's the face, there's the body, and then I distributed a hexagonal grid, and I distributed the points on the hexagonal grid, and I made a 3 inch diameter sphere on each point, and then I subtracted them all from the final shape. And so what that looks like, so let's just discard and exit. What that looks like is this. So that's the cutter with these spherical shapes taken out of the cutter. So if you take the spherical shapes out of the cutter and then you cut the overall shape with that, then it leaves a bunch of protruding spherical shapes. So then it looks like that. And so there you have it. That's the basic shape. Now, the texture in here on the actual sculpture is a lot more complex. I know that. This shape would be very, very difficult to CAD. I could do something that more closely emulated it, but as you can see, you do this with some sort of etching or some sort of process. It's very, very difficult to do with CAD. As a matter of fact, CAD is so fantastic, but if you want the model of a stalk of broccoli, you're out of luck. I mean, CAD can only get you so far in the end. So then I put lettering on. I extruded the lettering. I offset the lettering to make it as thick as the actual sculpture. It's kind of thick and coming together in a way for a kilometer. And I patterned that in terms of pattern face. I use pattern face here because I actually offset these faces to make the letters a little thicker than the font that I was allowed. And then I worked on the base some more. I did some cutouts on the base, and I did an offset region on the bottom, and I united the main sculpture to the base. And with Control W, I can easily hide everything, the datum planes, the curves, the sketches, what else? The sheet bodies, hide the sheet bodies. So there we have it in a pristine configuration. I went to the assigned visual materials, and I selected a sandstone for the shapes. And then finally, I did the Ray Trace Studio. And the Ray Trace Studio ended up looking pretty good after many iterations. So as you can see, it's kind of iterating in the background. It's up to 230, or it's 300. And it gets better and better. But in actuality, the regular shading looks pretty good. The studio shade, like that. So that is only one of many, many sculptures that I saw in Budapest. Budapest was a beautiful, beautiful city. It was clean, very, very safe, and everywhere you looked, there was so much great architecture. And I'm going to show you more of those in future videos, but this was a very compelling statue because it's like the beginning. It's the zero point of the whole city, and everything else spans out from this one thing. And this is along the promenade along the Danube River. Fantastic. I feel very blessed to share this kind of stuff with you all, so thank you very much. And please stay tuned. There will be more wonderful things that I saw in Budapest. I'll be trying to emulate a lot of them. The doors on all the buildings and the windows, and so many fantastic chapels, etc. So I'm going to be bringing to you excerpts of the geometry that I saw, the architectural wonders of Budapest. And like I said, thank you very much. My name is Steve Samuel from Design Visionaries, and it's a huge privilege to share this with you. Thank you very much. Please help us out by liking and subscribing if you can, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.